I'm actually not going to use the microphone. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah.
So first of all, guys, I want to thank everybody for coming in today. And hopefully everybody's enjoying the food.
Yes.
It's a great morning, right? I'd like to start the day really by thanking the members of the board who put a lot of work in this year. I've been privileged with working with a great crew. We got 2 lawyers in Hugh and Bud. Rachel, who's quite familiar with a lot of the building activity that's gone on in Beachwalk. Brian, who's so eloquently told me I don't know very much about IT because he knows a lot more than I do. So it's been a great crew, not to mention the folks who have assisted us with the finance team. Can the finance team please stand up? Whoever's here from the finance team.
Yeah, John.
I'd like to thank everybody.
Chris, Frank Chesley's not here.
Folks from the AERC team, whoever's here from the AERC team, please stand up and get up now. And then, do you have anybody here from the social?
It's just me and Brian.
So, guys, we had a terrific year. We really did. We got a lot of things accomplished, both in the board and the community as a whole. Rachel is going to go through some of the new activities, building and sales activity that's occurred in Beachwalk. Bud's going to cover what should be terrific news from a finance perspective. He's going to cover a lot of the legal issues that we dealt with last year. Most near and dear to me is the lake tide issue, okay? Which is significant to all of us. It impacts all of us here. Brian and I are going to cover some of the more rudimentary activities, such as the website. We've been promising the website for a few years, and as technology evolves, there was a lot of work that we needed to really consider as far as what's the best platform to deliver it in, and you're going to see that today. I think you're going to be able to walk out of here knowing that the website is going to be active for you already, and we're going to cover that a little bit more later on. 2 things that I wanted to mention. This meeting is being filmed. So, for the benefit of those who aren't able to join us, if there's anybody with discomfort of being with a camera, find the spot over there. Okay. The other thing is, and this is really, for the benefit of the website, we needed this. We wanted those who are willing to share their identity with the board, and to be assured that it's not going to be shared publicly. We wanted to get an update of people's contact information. One, for emergency situations. Over the winter, I know I was a victim of it, where my water pipe blew last year, and they didn't know how to get a hold of it. So we really want that to share. The second part of that is to register you on the website. We're going to use your email address and your contact phone info, but it will be secure. We're not going to release it to anybody without your permission. So I think, Brian, there's a form out here that you put out.
That's correct, yeah.
There's a form out here if you can get and fill it out if you're willing to share it with us. Otherwise, if you don't, you have to request a login from the website. But we will use your information from the sheet that you fill out to build an ID for you on the website. And Brian will mail out your login.
Angel, I think we also have an active form on the website too. You can go on the website and actually fill this form out online.
Okay, so you guys probably heard it. You can also request a login on the website itself. Okay. So with that, we have a lot of things to cover today. That's the agenda. We're going to give also each candidate 5 minutes to talk about why they feel they should be voted in for the community. And then we have our voting that will occur today. So I ask for everybody's patience in allowing us to go through the agenda. And then if time permitting, we'll have a good Q&A session afterwards. Okay? And with that, we're going to go ahead and start with Bud on the Finance Committee.
Good morning. I'm really happy to report that we are probably in the best financial position that we've ever been in, or at least as long as I've been in.
Anybody that can hear this?
At least as long as I've been an owner, for 7 years. So as of today, we have over $500,000 in cash balances between our operating account and the reserve. But I want to kind of review, so there's a lot of new owners here, I think, and I want to kind of review where we were, where we are, and where we're going. So 3 years ago, there was no significant capital improvements. We were going to these meetings, or I attended these meetings, and others did, and discovered complaints in terms of why are we doing this or that, we should do this or that. We had $30,000 to $40,000 in delinquencies, owners not paying. We had well over $100,000 in legal fees that were due from previous litigation. We were making none or then a pittance in terms of contributions to reserves. So where are we today? As of today, like I said, we have over $500,000 in cash balances. That's $275,000 in our operating account and $248,000 in our reserve account. Last year, we have no debt. Last year, we made contributions over the last 2 years of $10,000 a month to replenish the reserve, to put us in a better financial position. We spend $130,000 on all sorts of capital improvements, which I know all of you have witnessed. That was, we upgraded the boardwalk, upland stairs, we paved the back road, avoided all these potholes on the back road. We sealed all of the Beachwalk roads and repaired cracks in the road. We made improvements to the pool. We put a new Beachwalk front entrance in place, which is fantastic, and hats are off to Jen Gregg, Josh's wife, who drew up those plans, and we'll talk about her later, who's helping us on the clubhouse. So why did this happen? For a number of reasons. One, we had a lot of new homes, which resulted in buy-in fees, a cash flow stream of assessments. Collections of wristband fees and parking fees was up last year almost $50,000, so there was a rigorous collection effort. A more judicious management of the budget and our expenses, and frankly, we lived within our budget. So that's largely and the $10,000 a month in reserves. Well, all of that combined put us in a great financial position. So the question is, where are we going? The 2018 budget was sent out, it was approved by the board. When we look at this and the finance committee looked at it, we were conservative on all accounts, expenses and also revenues. We're in a great place because, as I drove around this morning, there are 11 houses under construction and 2 that haven't started. So what does that translate into from a financial standpoint? Buy-in fees of $2,100 a house and new assessment revenue. So the plans for this year, we have a solid budget. We are now this year going to contribute.
Press the button down.
Here.
Press the hold.
This year we are going to contribute $15,000. This is all with the intent of putting us in the best possible position. We had a reserve study done a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I guess. This keeps going on. We had a reserve study 2 years ago, and I think that given all of what I just said, we now are in a position that we're probably 3 years ahead of the 5-year reserve study. In terms of, this isn't,
Looks like the battery's dying.
well, I'm almost done anyway. So we're going to contribute $15,000 this year. Again, put us in the best possible position. There are plans possibly for some development. So the changes in the budget, there's a higher legal expense because we're forecasting the possibility and potential for having to get legal advice on some of these potential plans that are going to be ultimately presented to the board and to the community. The projects that we have listed for 18 are, we're going to do Caisson Park lighting. We we are renovating the pool club and clubhouse, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in terms of the surrounding area outside the pool, and what we're doing in the clubhouse is a separate agenda item which I'll talk about. That's basically it. But like I said, well, let me just make two other comments. We were on budget last year. The litigation that we had with respect to Rich Murphy cost us, together with what we paid this year, $20,000. And you can talk about that because he's going to report on that litigation. One of the reasons that our delinquencies are down, it's amazing when we have an election. We should have an election every 2 months because that's the way everybody pays their dues. The only other way, the other effective method to get people to pay their dues and assessments is to get close to the season, because then they can't use the amenities and all of a sudden they show up and pay their assessments. So I urge everybody to be timely in terms of the payment of their assessments and dues, because it hurts everybody else. With that, I'll turn it back to Angel, but congratulations, a great year.
Just a quick add, he talked about the projects that were approved and the projects that we're thinking of. There's going to be a section in the website called projects, and if you log in as an owner, you'll be able to see all the active projects that we have going, the actual, the monthly financial reports that come out. That's going to be available on the website as well. So a lot of these things that are actively the board's discussing, you'll be able to do it. Okay. I'm going to turn it over.
Angel, 1 second. I just want to thank Janice.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly professional, got game. Anytime I've needed any information with respect to this, or the finance committee needs it, she has been terrific in response, terrific, and knows this better than any of us. I don't care who, me or Josh or the rest of the finance committee. So a big thank you to Janice.
Okay, ARC.
Oh, it's me next? Okay. Okay, so again, I'm the liaison with the ARC from the board. We have, on the ARC team, we have Linda O'Mahony, we have Tom Boson, we have Jim Kennedy, Eric Hutton, and Ben Garber. So in 2017, we had a total of 5 houses finished, completed in 2017. In 2018, we have 11 homes under construction. 6 of those are on Mary Lane, 1 on Joe Lane, and 4 on Beachwalk Lane. We have 2 more homes approved, but they have not started as of yet. And both of those houses are also on Mary Lane. The sales, the other thing I just wanted to let you know was sales in Beachwalk. So in 2015, we had 5 home sales and 2 land sales. In 2016, we had 7 home sales and 3 land sales. And in 2017, we had 12 home sales and 14 land sales. So sales are definitely improving and prices are going up, which is great. And the only other thing I think I wanted to say just was, we will be sending out a notice again just to let everybody know the moratorium dates. The AERC did change their guidelines this year for when you apply for any work that needs to be done. So we're going to be really strict on that coming up to the season to make sure there's no construction going on when everybody's up there and people are around for health and safety reasons too. So the moratorium dates are the same. It's the Friday before Memorial Day, which is May 25th, to the Tuesday after Labor Day, which is September 4th. Okay. That's it.
Good morning. Many of you will be pleased to know that this is my last board meeting. I'm stepping off the board after this. I've been the board member basically coordinating the legal efforts for the last 3 years. And I will, riffing off of what Bud did, I'm going to do a little bit of summary for the new members about where we've been over the last 3 years. In the last year, our principal legal matter was the Periwinkles litigation. which we learned about after last year's board meeting. Basically, the people that own Periwinkles, which is now where the beach hut is, or clubhouse, whatever you want to call it, alleged that a BPOA member had trespassed in attempting to winterize the facility. Filed a lawsuit alleging trespass and interference with business relationships and other claims. The defendant, Rich Murphy, filed a motion for summary judgment, which for non-lawyers means there are no facts for a jury to consider, and the judge can rule on it himself. The judge found that the plaintiff failed to produce any evidence to support her claims and dismissed her claim, leaving pending a counterclaim for attorney's fees by the defendant against the plaintiff. I think that counterclaim is still pending. We were presented with a demand last year after the board meeting to indemnify the defendant and pay all of his expenses. We did not reach any conclusion on that, other than to say that we will pay up to $7,500 because there was a dispute on the board as to whether this was covered activity. We submitted this to the insurance carrier, our insurance carrier, which denied the coverage on the grounds that this was criminal conduct or alleged criminal conduct and was outside the policy. So in addition to engaging outside counsel to advise us on our duty to indemnify, outside counsel also spent a considerable amount of time reviewing our options in pursuing insurance coverage and whether we should sue the insurance company to get coverage. Ultimately, with the dismissal of the lawsuit, we don't have to do any of that. And we sent out I guess it was in January, a notice to everybody as to what the judge's order was, and we sent the judge's order. So I'm not going to bore everybody with that. But the main claim was dismissed. We have spent, through last year, it was $15,083.90 from last March through the end of the year. Most of that was on insurance coverage advice, $8,450. The rest of that was, we asked for an agreement with the defendant's attorney to work with us to supervise his activities and to make sure that we were getting some cooperation and insight into what was going on in the litigation. And then there was also things related to the summary judgment proceeding itself. Then this year we ended up getting the defendant's attorney's bill and paid that, and that comes out to about $20,000. So that was the last major piece of litigation that we've had, and it's resolved now. Over the last 3 years, I joined in 2015. I think Angel joined with me at that time.
Yep.
So for the new members, let me just, taking off on what Bud said, let me just go through some of the things that we focused on from a legal perspective to get the ship righted again. When Angel and I joined in 2015, May of 2015, the BPOA had been mired in a bankruptcy with the developer that had been going on for 4 years. And even before that, we had been trying to negotiate with the developer to, number one, become self-reliant and self-governing, and number two, become the owners of the common elements. And we were never able to reach an agreement on that with him, and the bankruptcy made it even more difficult to come to some agreement because he was trying to reorganize his development company and he was not getting anywhere. So in May of 2015, we embarked on a whole new course. And within 6 weeks, we got an order from the judge granting us everything that we had been asking for years. The bankruptcy took a little bit longer than that because bankruptcies never seem to die. They're like government programs, they just never go away. The bankruptcy has now ended, and we were in fact paid almost $6,000 for our administrative expenses in the bankruptcy. But went over the financials, and the capital projects. In addition to that, we reorganized both the AERC and the Finance Committee. And we also then focused from a legal perspective on passing good governance resolutions and adopting best practices for this board. Beginning with specifically assigning roles and responsibilities to each board member, along with guidelines and limits on board members' authority. We put an end to people who are not on the board acting on behalf of the BPOA, which had happened. We adopted a resolution regarding engagement of counsel. For years, people had assumed that they could just call up our outside counsel and start talking about what was going on with the bankruptcy or whatever else was on their mind, and then we would get the bill. So we put an end to that. We tied the right to vote on BPOA matters to getting current on your obligations to the BPOA. We adopted a code of conduct this past year for the board members as well as the committee members. And we also revised the proxy system in order to reflect what we thought was better governance. So those are the things that we've accomplished over the last year and the last 3 years. In the coming year or more, there will be a legal function that all of you will have to address because Beachwalk is now built out. And there's going to be the question of how or if we are going to develop further. In the last year, there have been restrictions imposed on Beachwalk by the city of Michigan City that make it more expensive for developers to develop the land around Beachwalk. That will be a source of discussion that you'll have to get informed about. Most of that is going to require the board to have outside counsel to work with the city and the planning commission and the developer themselves, because ultimately the issue is going to be, if this area around us gets developed, is it going to be part of Beachwalk or is it going to be something separate? The hope is that it will be part of Beachwalk both consistently with architectural and community standards. And if not, I don't know what's going to happen. But that's going to be the big issue. And that's why we have budgeted, was it $30,000 for the coming year for outside counsel to advise the BPOA on what's going to be happening. That's my report.
Okay, Lynn Cott?
Can I just say, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done for us as an association.
Make a comment. I've been practicing law for 45 years. I've been at some of the big firms in Chicago, smaller firm now, and in my experience, this is one of the smartest lawyers you can find. Secondly, we have saved tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, particularly before my service on the board, in the bankruptcy. This guy has spent hundreds and hundreds of hours over time dealing with these issues. It's purely voluntary. I don't want to tell you what his normal hourly fee is, but he didn't get paid by us. So my hat is off to him. Anytime I've served on boards, one of the benefits of boards is you accumulate new friends, and I'm happy to say that I've got a new friend. So thank you.
Yeah, Lake High, for the new members here, Lake High is not owned by the BPOA, but we have under the bankruptcy court order, a license to use it for recreational purposes, and that extends to our guests as well. Lake High is owned by Rob Hart, his development company. Like many lakes in the Northwest Indiana region, over the last few years, it has suffered from blue-green algae, which appears to be related both to water level, water activity, water depth, and heat. But blue-green algae is a potentially very serious problem from a health perspective. You'd have to ingest it and get it in your lungs, but it could be dangerous. So a couple years ago, we undertook voluntary treatment of Lake High for a number of other things, and then we expanded that to treat blue-green algae. So last year we had an extensive treatment program, and we also instituted a regular monitoring program that before we had done it at the beginning and the end of the year, we did it throughout the entire season. Fortunately, whatever chemicals we were putting into Lake Kai had the desired effect, or it wasn't a hot summer or whatever. The scientists don't have a consensus on this. But we had a good summer. We didn't have a significant blue-green algae problem. And we've contracted again with the same firm to continue the treatments in Lake Kai. And the basic purpose of the treatment is to contain the blue-green algae at the bottom of Lake Kai, because nobody knows how to get rid of it. So it's there, it just hasn't bloomed, and we're hoping that we'll have another summer like that. The reason that we pay for it for somebody else's lake is because we have a license to use it, and we're the primary users. We have begun discussions with Rob about sharing those costs. He would like to see an indemnity agreement from the PPOA that indemnifies him for things that happen that are bad, that are the result of something we do or that our guests do. And we are in the beginning stages of negotiating that agreement. So that's another reason that there's a $30,000 budget for the legal fees coming up. But for now, Lake Kai is in good shape, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed.
But what did we budget for the treatment for Lake Kai? It's like 27,000. So,
Well, that's all treatment for Lake Kai.
yeah, well,
I'm sorry, that includes not just Lake Kai, but all the other ponds too, right? 2 ponds. So that's kind of all 28,000, 27,000.
so it's a significant cost to maintain.
I have a question about the ongoing maintenance of Lake Kai, since that's not owned by us. Is there talk about how to handle the phragmites? Eventually, we're going to be so overpopulated with the phragmite weeds that are all around the edge that
So,
it tends to.
not specifically, but this year, like this past year, right? We attempted to maintain it and cut it and trim it. So certainly we can consider that as far as a permanent treatment.
Actually, Angel, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Janice just told me that Beachside Gardens is going to do that.
It's part of their contract.
Well, that's what I meant, right? As far as cutting it, but prevention, we really don't put anything. We cut it and trim it. But
Yeah, and I think in her new contract, it's in there about treating it, so.
treating and actually preventing it from growth. Oh, sure.
The whole lake, all.
We'll look at it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the whole lake. It's certainly the frontage that covers us for sure. You know. Yeah.
Same as with fragmites.
Okay. Any other question about Lake Kai, folks? Yes.
Yeah, another issue with Lake Kai, and I don't know where it falls as far as responsibility, but especially after Labor Day, I like to go up there a lot in the fall, use the lake, and there's been a big population of people outside of Beachwalk. I guess word has got out that that's a great fishing hole, and it's beyond the stages of the guy taking his kid to fish. I was there one day where there's 7 cars pulled up.
Right.
And these guys are taking 5-pound buckets of fish out of there. Now, I've been here 15 years. I never been able to fish that
Yeah.
like the last couple of
We
years.
were kind of hoping to deter that based by using the parking passes, because presumably they have to park their car somewhere.
It's after,
People are
it's
just
after the
walking
season.
on.
It's
Right.
after
Well,
the
this is after the
season.
season.
No, they're
Or this is
driving.
after the season?
Yeah, they're driving.
Yeah.
They're parking in their boats. They're
I have pictures of a guy pulling his pickup truck down there and launching them.
I tell you what, so we'll take that into consideration this year for security, and maybe we need to enforce our parking regulations all throughout the season.
Well, just,
Yeah, but this
let-
is after season, this is.
let me finish for a minute.
I'm
Sure.
sorry.
I've called the police, because that's per Janice's instructions. And they come out, but they said, without any signs saying it's private property, it's hard to enforce, really, because they can just say, well, we didn't know. So I'm proposing that we at least put up a couple signs
Yeah, sure,
that say, it's for the use of Beachwalk and its residents.
that makes sense.
For people, I don't know, people that come much after the season pretty much, but, it's affecting the experience. I've got 5 guys sitting on buckets on my beach in front of my house.
I agree.
So it's something we really do gotta address because, it's an asset. It's an asset to be able to fish that lake like you finally can now. I really do. I think, you know, maybe some people don't do it, but I mean, it's fun, you know, if you bring your kids to do that. And if the way they're fishing is just gonna be gone. And it's taken so long to build that up.
If those guys were eating those fish, maybe they're not.
Yeah, they're not, they won't be the best. Or you'd be able to spot them at night.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, question, is this is rumor as far as I was concerned? I was talking to a woman on Lake Michigan, and she mentioned that the factories that are behind us, is it Creaton, I can never pronounce it,
Criterion.
are digging 3 sludge wells. If they leak, they can go into Lake High and ultimately in Lake Michigan. Has anybody else heard about this?
I haven't heard of any sludge wells. We've been in pretty constant contact, I should say regular contact, with Criterion and their environmental consulting firm and their PR firm, probably 3 or 4 times a year. It is an environmental site that they've had groundwater contamination, okay? What they're digging, my understanding is what they're digging are test wells to make sure that the plume doesn't extend beyond where it is now. And where it is now, right now, does include Lake High, but it does not, according to the state of Indiana, pose a threat to health. So they're monitoring what's happening, but I'm not aware of any new sludge wells being.
Well, this is what she told me. She saw the wells being dug, so, and she doesn't live in our area.
Yeah, I think they're probably the test wells.
Thank you.
You know, getting back to liability of that lake with all the new homes that they're building on the other side, I'm sure people are gonna start using it from that end too. I hope, you know, anything happens on that lake, I don't know what our liability is. You know, I know you're negotiating it, but it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't want another big lawsuit for something like, you know.
Okay.
Okay. Brian? Brian's actually gonna do case on park lights.
So for those of you that are also new, Quezon Park Lighting, that's the back part of Beachwalk. There was never any street lamps or lighting ever installed back there back when the development was put in. And so now with the construction boom that we have going on right now, that area is becoming pretty full quickly, it's becoming now a safety issue to be able to light this. Now, some of this was being pressed by the Michigan City years ago to have this done. They've since backed off a little bit, but they do know that we're working on a program for this. And so they've kind of left it up to us to where to place these lights. This is preliminary. We've gotten some quotes already. It's been budgeted, as Bud mentioned. So this is, you can see from the diagram here, any of the yellow dots is where we're planning on putting light fixtures. And the blue lines are where we have to actually bore cable underneath the ground using directional bore equipment. And then finally, the red connections, the red dots are service pedestals. And then you'll see some black triangles in there too. Those are NIPSCO transformer locations where we potentially might actually tap off of for those lights. So basically, we have 9 new lights that we have planned to install back here. We've been basically waiting on good weather, but this is the preliminary drawing that we have right now to do this. So after the meeting, if you want to come up and take a look at this drawing and talk to us about it, if you have any questions, feel free to do so.
But this is not final.
This is not final. It's not final. It's preliminary, but we have gotten budgeted numbers from the preliminary. Yeah.
Who's the contractor?
Harbor
Electric, yes.
They actually did all the other lights in the Beachwalk years and years ago.
So.
Are the lights going to be consistent with the current lights?
So the light fixtures, we cannot source those fixtures. They can't find those fixtures anymore. The company that used to make our existing fixtures is changed hands 3 different times since they were produced. So what we've been able to do is come up with something similar. It's close. You probably will be able to tell if you look at it real closely. The design is slightly different, but it's about as close as we're going to be able to get. The other thing too is we're not going to be putting ballards in. The ballards really are kind of they don't produce a lot of light or anything like that, so these are actually going to be true pole fixtures that we're looking at doing, so.
This is tangential to the lights, but right now, all the lights in the development are that green color. And I know that there was conversation in the past about changing the colors of Beachwalk, and we actually, I think, had paid for a branding study to develop a new color scheme. So my current question is, what color are those lights going to be back there?
I think for right now, we plan on putting black fixtures in, but the actual color of the fixtures actually have not been decided at this point in time. They can be painted any colors, but you're right, there has been some talk about painting the other fixtures a different color, but that has nothing's been decided on that. So I think the fixtures themselves come black, and then you have to paint them whatever color you want. Any other questions? Well, so the NIPSCO Transform Project, for those of you that weren't at the last meeting, last summer we've had numerous issues where basically cars keep running into the green transformer boxes. Of course, the green transformer boxes are actually in the parking areas of a lot of parts of Beachwalk. That's just the way NIPSCO installed all those back in the day. And so as a result, people back into them, it slides those pedestals off, and we've come really close to actually having a large kaboom go on in our neighborhood. We've actually had several power outages as a result of this, and so we worked with NIPSCO and basically came up with a effective way to potentially protect these things. There were two ways that we looked at. One, actually cementing posts into the ground on the left and right side of these transformers. It was going to be a very expensive project to do that, and they weren't going to look all that great. Think of yellow painted posts on the next, it's not going to go very well. So the next thing that we came up with are these large boulders. So 2 to 3 foot boulders and 1 to 2 foot boulders, depending on the size of the transformer. They can be easily placed on the left and right side. We've got 19 small transformer boxes and 19 larger ones, and there is one spot where we have to use concrete posts because it's going to block someone's driveway if we park a big boulder next to the transformer. So that's currently what the plan is for that. The bid quote was at about $4,500 and has been budgeted for this year. And I do have a map of all those locations. I don't have a slide of the map, but you know, feel free to see me later and I can show you that.
We're going to try to do that before the start of the season, right?
Yes.
Maybe we should send or put it on the website for that.
Yeah, a lot of this information we're going to put on the website.
Well, I mean, a picture of what the boulders are going to look like.
Yeah, I have a small picture up here. I mean, it's not that great, but that's basically, I mean, that's the color of the type of rock that we're looking at. Those are some smaller pieces, but they'll be slightly larger. So.
We should do it for the light fixtures too.
So, a question over here. You guys know, do we lose any parking spots with this?
What was the question? Sorry.
We said that we're going to lose parking because, like, in the back, like on Children's, for example, I'm trying to figure out what it is we're blocking. You know, those other the green boxes. That
yes.
we're talking about? So are we going to lose?
It's possible, man.
It's possible. It's very possible, unfortunately, because I mean we're basically going to take 2 to 3 feet of space on the left and right side of each of those boxes to park these boulders. So if you park up right against them right now, you're going to lose 3 feet of space.
So it's entirely possible. But the alternate, guys, is the city they've been repairing our transformers for free. And they claim up to a cost of $10,000 per repair. Like the last one, the charge is $10K. We just had one about 3 weeks ago. And certainly the one in my corner was just hit again by a freaking snowplow.
We're damaging like 10 of these things a year, and
it's expensive.
And we should see like one transformer damage maybe once every 5 years. But the NIPSCO guy, I have to tell you, when he came out and he was looking at all this, he was like, he kind of was jokingly and said, "Well, that's a 1 margarita head right there." So you know, it's so yeah, it's we need to get it done.
So are these boulders anchored into the ground? How does this work?
The boulders are actually just going to sit on the ground. They can be moved with machinery if we need to, and NIPSCO prefers that because if they need to get into the transformers to do maintenance, they have the machinery to move the boulders.
So a 3 margarita could hit the boulder and still get the transformer.
Yes, it's still good.
It's very possible, yes, but this
It's still good.
But
This
NIPSCO
was-
won't allow you to go to,
Drink free?
to lock them down, do you know what I mean? Because they
Well,
have
that's
to be
my
able to
point.
move
The
them.
other alternative is they talked about fencing around these things, but then now you're talking much larger space we need to allocate for it. This was the agreed upon solution amongst all parties. That's the lowest cost, it's the least intrusive, and
It's more of a deterrent more than anything else, but I think once the people hear a crunch in their rear, I think that will stop them from moving forward, you know? But the snowplows, I don't know how we're gonna stop them. If this, like in my case, it was completely covered in snow and he ran right through it. So, the snowplow.
The transformers, if they're currently damaged, will they automatically repair these, or is it possible to get into, or who should we get in touch with if we have a damaged
Well,
transformer?
right now they're repairing it automatically.
I mean, ours has been there for like a year and a half, 2 years.
And they've repaired dozens of these.
so there's a difference between the Comcast and AT&T boxes versus the NIPSCO boxes. And so if it's a round-looking box, it's typically an AT&T or Comcast box. You'll see those falling over. People have hit those too, but those
They're all green?
they're all green.
All
Yeah,
green,
so
yeah.
if it's a small rectangular box, that's NIPSCO. If it's a larger square box, that's NIPSCO. But yeah.
And will these boulders just arrive, then, I guess, if we have one?
They will just arrive, yes.
Well, we're gonna notify everybody.
Yes, we'll notify once it actually.
Because the placements will be different in each spot. We've also talked about just putting it in the transformers that are most likely to be hit. You know, because there's some that are repeatedly hit. You know, again, my transformers.
We have more boxes, but those are the ones that I've identified that are in parking spaces that can be hit. The ones that are just in your landscape or just outside the parking area, those we're gonna leave as is.
Website.
So, we have a new website. We're on time, I can also do it at the end.
Well, at the end.
Right, so I'm just going to talk about, we have a new website. The address is beachwalkhomeowners.com. Here's a page on the right-hand side, just a sampling of it. The new website will feature events, bulletins. We have a lot of owner information there, forms and documents. We have a governance section, which Angel talked about, is we'll have that you'll have to log into to see all those documents. A membership directory, which you'll also have to log into the website to be able to view. There's an Android and iOS app available, so you can actually be able to get access to the membership directory as well as events right on your phone if you want. There's an updated contact form, the ones on your table, as well as the one on the website that you'll have to fill out to get access to. But we've spent a lot of time working on this, really excited about this. We'll be able to finally publish everything that goes on a regular basis. You'll be able to see what events are going on every weekend. You can even subscribe to notifications and get those. So I'm going to save the actual website demonstration to the very last to make sure we can get through the rest of our meeting. But we're really excited about this. So.
And, oh, by the way, we need to establish a kind of like a technical content committee. And certainly it's tough for either Brian or I to maintain it. So we're going to be looking for volunteers. Any of you who, everybody today is kind of IT savvy. So we're hoping to solicit some volunteers in the group to help us maintain the content.
If you can use a web browser and you can type in Microsoft Word, we can train you on how to actually edit and change, put content on the website.
And please, in your form, if you don't want us to share your information on the membership directory, let us know and we won't. Okay?
What isn't by default.
It isn't by default, so they have to say yes.
So let me explain to you, the membership directory, the way it's gonna work is, on the website, even after you log in, it's just gonna have people's names. There's no emails, there's no phone numbers, nothing is ever published on the website. There will be a link to let you contact another member through the website that will then send that member an email message. And then if you guys want to exchange emails at that point or phone numbers, you can. So, but this is to prevent, too much information out there. So yes, it's just going to be names only in the
So,
membership.
Ryan, I have a question, because we're there a lot and see things, and if I want to contact somebody, but I don't know who owns the house, but I just know the address, can you look up by address?
We could look at it.
We could look at putting the name and address in there. If everyone's okay with having their address next to their name, that would be pretty easy to do.
You know, because it's easy to like get in touch with someone and say, hey, this is going on the property.
Again, people would have to approve us displaying that. Okay, we just can't do that, people would have to be okay with us doing that. Okay, for obvious reasons. And just so you guys know, many have requested member directories from RMC, from vendors, even people in the community, and we have disallowed it. We have never allowed any of our information to be shared by anyone from the get-go, just so you know.
Will the management company be able to get a hold of the people in the instance that we're talking about where?
Yes.
Yes. Not any more or less than they do today. And certainly it'll be an additional help for RMC to be able to use our site. And then in the future, we're going to build other things down the road, like obviously RMC has a facility for you guys to pay online. We're going to build links between our site and the RMC site, so that if you guys want to make payments to their site, you can, and we'll build a bridge between ours and their site.
RMC doesn't manage the homes.
Well, last year when one of these houses had broken pipes and there was a waterfall coming out, we were not able to establish who the owner is, and because of that, and there was no address marked, the city was not able to shut off the water of the master because we had no way of getting a hold of that.
And again, that's why I asked people
We
to allow us.
extrapolated the address to finally get the information.
And for that reason, I ask that you guys allow us to have your info for emergency purposes. Now we're trying to establish it legally, right? We want your permission for us to keep that info, so if something happens, we can contact you with a pledge that we won't share your information with anyone. But it's up to you guys. You kind of will, if an event happens, you kind of suffer if you don't give us your information. Okay. Next. Code of, we actually spoke about it. Rachel, you want to add anything to the code of conduct?
No, not really.
Yeah, we have it for each group.
I have a copy of it here if anybody wants to see it afterwards, but I think the main thing is just that all the board members, all the committee members are, have signed it. We brought it in last November. And it's if anybody wants to see it, I have several copies up here they can read through. There's a lot in it, so.
Yeah, we're going to bring it up. So you're going to see now a quick sampling of guidelines for people to know. This is pretty much how it's going to look like. I'm going to talk about security a little bit. So for security, we've been kind of addressing safety driving and obviously the role of the security personnel. Last year, we had one patrol person pretty much covering a 12-hour schedule. But we kind of had a goofy schedule where we had different times and different days. And I think we're going to simplify that this year. After the board convenes with the new members and officers elected, we're going to vote to simplify the security time frame and probably increase it. Okay? But basically, we're going to have a security patrol on a golf cart, and we supply the golf cart. And their main purpose really is to deter any type of criminal activity. They are not the police. Okay? They're there to basically advise folks on quiet time, advise folks on speeding and driving and quiet time, And anything else, parking, certainly they enforce the parking regulations, they issue tickets, we issued quite a bit of them last year. So we asked for everybody's patience because there's been some activity last year where some of the people who were penalized, of course, got mad at the security officers, right? They're just doing their jobs. Certainly if there's a dispute that you guys don't think you were unduly issued warning violations, let one of the board members know or contact RMC and we'll handle it. And as we did. Also last year we had a lot of vandalism on our walkway to the beach. So we're going to talk about how we could expand the time frame and how we could expand the patrol to cover off hours. We haven't discussed yet the incremental cost to cover that and what times we're going to be doing it, but we're going to be trying to cover that a lot more this year. Certainly 911 is always available to everybody from Michigan City Police. Right? Other than that, we're probably going to stick with the same one personnel per time frame. Right? It's going to start from Memorial Day weekend and it ends on Labor Day weekend. Is our security. Again, we can elect to expand that. You know, if you guys want some input into the security time frame, let us know and we're willing to expand it.
Do we have any idea how often the police would call?
No, I don't, but we could probably check if we need to.
I mean, it'd be interesting to know, the incidents.
Yeah, okay, I can try to find.
I mean, I don't know whether that's confidential, but I mean, as a community, it would be important to know, how many times the police have been called, particularly if we're considering it in terms of security. I think it's important to kind of know that. So.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to find out.
Hey, Joe, one thing we talked about last year was putting a camera on that golf cart. So when he drives up.
Oh, I was going to talk about that.
Okay.
But that's cool. Go ahead.
Got a question about, and I'm not sure if you're going to discuss this later, but dealing with fireworks. We always have signs saying no fireworks. We have fireworks every 4th of July. The concern is a lot of it's done by renters. And I happened to see fireworks lit off by the dunes in Lake Michigan, and it was amazing how quickly everything went.
Sure.
And being a homeowner right on Lake High with, I'm not sure if you call it reeds or whatever, plus that area parking and in that corner, things could go up pretty quickly. I don't know if that's something you want the security.
No, fireworks are illegal, and it's been illegal since day one, as long as I can remember.
It happens every year.
Yeah, certainly, and we caught a lot of them last year. That was one of the big fights that occurred with our security patrol and a homeowner, actually.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and we had to get in the middle of that, and we had to speak to the homeowner and say, you can't do this. So, what can I say, guys? It's illegal. Fireworks are illegal. Tell your renters. Beachwalk, resort rentals, please advise them. So, the only thing we could do this year is try to be more stricter about it and call the police.
Is there something that, and I'm an owner that doesn't rent, and I live up in Beachwalk now most of the time. But is there something that could be put in the lease agreements that if a renter does this, they get fined?
Yes, we can certainly look into it.
Because I think most of it is, and I know about the one that happened with an owner, but most of it is a renter. They come up and they're going to shoot off fireworks and with all the beach grass. And if you could find that renter, it might be a deterrent.
Okay, good point. We'll take that into consideration.
Just on security, I kind of probably don't need to say it, but for everyone here, you and your guests, whoever's there, lock your doors because when the weather's nice, the kids from all around rifle through and go into cars. So it's just a good preventative measure, and sometimes you think you don't have to do it because you're parking at Beachwalk, but lots of kids walk on foot and move around. It's just good to keep your cars locked at night.
I have new golf clubs as a result of.
Did you really?
Yeah. Well, I mean.
On your side?
Yeah, and Rachel, you got the same.
My
not
car,
golf clubs.
well, I haven't got my cart. I haven't got it locked because I never lock it outside my house. So my son's school backpack was taken out of the car. I guess they thought there was probably a laptop in it, and he was more upset than I had because he had a 22-page English packet that was complete and due in the next day, and he had to redo it. So although it wasn't a great monetary value, it's still, you know, you don't think anything is gonna happen. We've been lulled into a false sense of security and it's not there anymore.
Yes, sir.
Getting back to the fireworks,
Yes.
probably a good idea would be for the management office to, especially around 4th of July, to give the owners something written or even both written and verbally saying, hey, there's no.
We kind of do every year, believe it or not.
We do.
We do it.
Okay.
We do it every year.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll try to be a little bit, all we can do is try to be a little bit more stern about it. And like I said, it's disheartening when our biggest distributor was a homeowner, but we'll do our best to try to find that out. Yes?
I'm probably spacing out here, but like on the 4th of July, the fireworks go late into the night, like at least till midnight. It may be appropriate at that time for security to put in some overtime.
Sure. We might even consider having maybe a couple of resources at the time. Yeah, have 2 guys. Okay.
I think part of the other challenge too, Angel, is the neighborhood behind us, which is basically a Beachwalk. Like they have such rules and regulations in place, so it could be you're also hearing stuff from the neighborhood.
Next thing on our agenda is golf cart rules. Once you guys get on the website, you'll be able to see the golf cart rule details. This has not been approved by the board yet, so this is one, but it's got the most basic things like we have underage driving is illegal, guys. Last year we had a lot of underage golf cart driving. Every single one of our golf carts need to be driven by someone with a license. Okay, so don't be upset when people get stopped. This is all primarily owners that got stopped last year, where they had underage kids driving their golf carts. So please don't be upset with our security patrol because they will stop them. Okay? If you don't have lights, they will stop them. So now we're again subject to board approval, that we're proposing a $100 fine for each violation in the golf cart because it's a safety issue. If you don't have lights, it's a safety issue. A kid hit my car because I'm on the corner of Power Lane and Beachwalk. That turn. At night, I have cars parked there. I've been hit twice. Every single year I've been hit by a cart with no license. And in both times, underage kids driving. One of them actually got hurt, got sent to the hospital. The child was already driving the golf cart. So we're going to restrict about it this year. So underage driving, also overcrowded driving, where you see kids hanging in the back and there's like 6 of them in the back and you're driving. We're going to try to bottle that up. So the security will stop them and say, you can't do that. Okay? I'm not done yet, but go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, last year we implemented some type of a bus or something, or a trolley.
Yes, that's good.
How was that? Was it well received?
Yeah, actually it was. It was well used. It was used quite a bit. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the cart that we wanted, which would have had 6 people. Hopefully we'll be able to reserve that this year. A lot of people used it.
So we're that kind of
around that end.
Right, yeah, people will fly around that blind curve. And
Right. So, can I just get a quick show of hands of anyone who's opposed to speed bumps? Perfect.
That's it right now.
A point of clarity on that back area that does have trails through it. It is private land. There is no golf carts allowed in there.
Right, yeah.
That's a good point. If you put and there's signs up there on the on whatever that layout.
They also are blacked out after.
Yeah.
Letting people know.
Have you looked at other options besides speed bumps? We used to have like different decorative things at intersections and throughout the streets.
No, I personally haven't, and I was the one in charge of looking at it in the beginning, like from the previous year. But obviously, we're going to put speed signs, and hopefully that will deter even more. Well, we're open to suggestions, but you know.
There used to be like signs at intersections, so you couldn't just blaze through an intersection. A long time ago. They said slow.
Right. Even if
I don't know. Again, I'm basing it all on the experience that I've had with the way people reason out to me, and you know, I just don't think it's going to work.
One thing you might want to consider is cutting back some of that vegetation right where that corner is, so you can see the people coming. You know, I mean, that's a pretty blind spot in the middle of summer when the vegetation's going. If you're coming into Beachwalk down that back road, it would be on your right-hand side, on your left-hand side if you're coming out of it, but you can't really see people coming around there. So we just cut that back, right, to deter a lot of it.
All right, well, we'll talk about that, huh? Maybe cutting back a little of the vegetation on that bend, okay? Yeah. Okay.
That way people can see how fast they can go, because they
Well,
can see
with the
no one's
mirror,
coming.
I mean, at night it's not an issue because of the lights. It's daytime. Okay, that's a good suggestion.
No, I was gonna say one.
Corrals?
Okay. So, garbage can corrals. I'm just going to be brief on this because we haven't made any decisions on anything as of yet. The ARC has been working on this for the past 6 months, as well as all the other stuff they're doing with all the new construction in the development. The ARC in January, I think, put a proposal to the board. So I suppose the first thing to say is that every house should have a garbage corral. The rules were never enforced. So the ARC would like to see the rules enforced. They would like to see garbage cans. I know since I've owned here, we've always talked about them at meetings and doing a design for them and having them installed at people's properties. So they had a contractor look at it. They came up with a design. We showed it to Beachside Gardens. The design that the ARC came up with had gates. Beachside Garden would prefer us not to have gates. They suggested a 3-sided garbage can corral. So I'm waiting for a plan to be done up on that. The initial costing looks like around $600 per house. But the problem is, obviously, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, because what works for my house is not necessarily going to work for, somebody on Childers or Beachwalk Lane. So it's something that the board is still looking at, where the ARC has kind of gone back to the drawing board in the past 2 weeks after discussions with Beachside Gardens. And they're going to work on it now in the spring, when they haven't got construction to look at.
Yeah, well, just to throw it, I mean, some of the things that are out there, obviously, is do we make it mandatory, voluntary, provisional, then kick it in? I had suggested, since we're in decent shape financially, the possibility of incentivizing people by us covering $100 per house. We haven't budgeted that for 18 because it's still in play, in process, but it's something that I think we might entertain depending on where we come out on this and what the cost is, et cetera.
So the 3-sided one is looking at about $600 at the moment, but the contractor that I've talked to is saying, obviously that's for one garbage can corral. If you can get like 5 neighbors, don't have to be on the same street or beside each other, but if 5 people come together, they'll give a 10% discount. So, and if the BPOA are kicking something in, maybe we can get it down to under 500 would be my hope. But again, it's so nothing. There just isn't a one thing that will work for everybody. And even the 3-sided one now, which Beachside Gardens actually suggested, they're now saying, but nothing can be obviously blocking the side where you need to take out the can. So it's just very difficult to implement.
The opening is to the side?
It would be to the back. So if you think 2 garbage cans together, the corral would be about 8 foot by 3 foot. So it would be one of the 3-foot sides will be just open. And you would have 2 8-foot long and 1 3-foot long. Yes?
Rachel, have we consulted with a refuge company on that? My only concern is for those of us that don't have our cans, aggregated in a central street where we actually do have space for the garbage trucks to come down. How are they going to manage that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, Beachside Gardens actually pull all the cans at the moment with the garbage.
But we don't have, we're in Childers and they drive right by cars.
Debbie, apparently Beachside does, and I asked this week, does all of the houses, okay? The problem with the gate was, that was an additional thing. They'd have to open the gate, move the cans. So that's why we're at the 3-side model. you know, the carriers who are picking up the garbage and the recycling, they just have the thing come down and pick it up, and it has to be there, okay? They were not gonna do any of the, you know, move the cans from here to there.
No, but I'm just worried, because I know I've been there on garbage day, and they just come and pick ours up. Ours is not moved to the park, ours is kept on ours.
Apparently it is.
Apparently, at Beachside Gardens, we just got an email from them this week saying they are now pulling all garbage cans.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
that's.
So I'll double check on children,
Yeah,
but
I just wanted to make sure.
we just asked them that this week because we were wondering what the extra cost would be involved for them to do every street, and they sent us back, we are doing every street, so. But I'll double check again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to clarify, these are for if you don't have a garbage corral, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so if you have one, this isn't.
Yes.
And is there just a general rule about how these things need to be built, or it must be built through that contract?
You could, I mean, if you want to go out, so the hope was that we would give a suggested, and I have one here if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards. The hope is that we would give a suggested design, but I mean, obviously everybody's fence looks different. Some people have pineapples on their fence. They want to put pineapples on their fence around their garbage can corral, that's fine. You know, people have different design fences. So the hope would be that you would continue the design of your fence around your garbage can corral.
Go ahead, sir.
So we have a garbage can corral already. It's a large blue garbage can and a yellow recycling.
Yeah.
But typically, when we come, like today's a good example, last night's a good example, there's 400 garbage cans there. So we have like 5 or 6
Yeah.
garbage cans total, so it kind of defeats the purpose.
I mean, everybody should put their address.
That's somebody
on the
else,
garbage
right?
can
Maybe
if they go
Beachside Garden,
missing.
they move it back.
I mean,
It's
some
always
people,
like that.
some people do, and this is the idea with this design is that, you know, if you have 2 cans, it's this length. If you have 3 cans, it's this length. There's different designs for depending on how many garbage cans you have. And we would also be, the hope would be that each person would send in an application to the ARC with what where their garbage can corral would go. There wouldn't be any application fee or anything. The ARC would just be processing them so that we know who's completed, and if we are doing a money back to the homeowner to encourage people to do it, we need to have that information anyway. So
If you put the address on the corral, and
Yeah.
the address, because I see the guys do it.
It's a good
but I have
idea.
no idea where the cans are going.
yeah,
So if you put the address on the corral, the address on the can, it'll be a lot easier for them to get it back to where it's supposed
Yeah.
to go.
I mean that's a lot of that problem is people don't have their number on their can.
Or the company doesn't know.
Yeah, I think they have it on the can.
Even
It's
if the
not
number's on
corral.
the can, the company, Beachside, they don't
They don't know the
know
house.
what's 103, whatever, you know, they just put it wherever.
Yeah.
Hey guys, go ahead.
I just got a comment. First of all, using my money to pay for someone else's corral, I don't want to do that. I mean, you're using, say, if someone doesn't have a corral as part of the deal, that's their responsibility. Going back now, if you look at everything, you keep talking about accountability. Some owners and people are not being accountable. If you're going to do stuff, you pay for it. It's yours, you pay for it. We're talking about the private property back here in the back thing, cutting trees down. Why do we pay for that? That's not our property, that's someone else's property. Let them take care of that. Why are we taking money from the homeowners to pay for things that's not ours?
We haven't decided how we're going to do it yet, right? Certainly not. We're always sensitive to that, just so you know.
Okay,
We're always
You're
sensitive.
talking about fines. Look at the thing right here, your budget for this next year, fines. We have $100 in fines in here. You're telling me that's all $100?
For what? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your question is.
To collect the fines. You know, we're doing all this stuff, we're not collecting those people accountable. You know, I'm just going back to the whole NIPSCO thing, the boxes, people are damaging those, they should be paying for those.
You know, the problem, so I'm just going to spend a few more minutes because we're running out of time. But we attempt to, don't forget, we attempt to figure out who it is, but it becomes a finger-pointing exercise because we don't have video cameras. Nobody can tell who hit it, you know. We tried, believe me, we tried. We said, we don't want to accuse necessarily the homeowner or the renter because it could have been done by anyone. That's a challenge behind it, you know what I mean? So, unless we're installing cameras, CCTVs all over our community, one of my biggest beefs is 4 times this year, people dump refrigerators, toilet bowls in our common dumping grounds. Furniture. We don't know who's doing it. It costs us $1,200. To your point, man, it was very upsetting because for that special pickup from the company, we ended up doing it twice at $600 a pop. Everybody knows here that we shouldn't be dumping furniture in our common areas. People do it, you know? And so unless maybe we make an effort and really discuss having cameras in our neighborhood, we can certainly cover that. Talk
You know,
about it.
if you call the city, large.
No, I understand. We know that now.
It's free.
We know that now.
I
At the time, we didn't know.
just want to clarify, if you're referring to this, the revenue entry here of $100, that is the all-time low ball, that's revenue, okay? So presumably, for fines, that's going to be maybe thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, I'm not quite sure the point here in terms of the $100 reference here. So that's on the revenue side, okay, so we're clear here? So this is lowballing what the fines would be for 18. This could be a $10,000 number.
Yeah,
We
it's
can't
very
guess.
high.
What was collected last year, Bob? As a place?
Fines for parking?
No, for fines.
5,000 for parking fines, and wristband fee was up to $50,000.
Fines, 5,000 was collected.
For parking fines.
Yeah.
But I just want to clarify the reference to this item on the budget, okay? It's on the revenue side, it's all-time low ball.
I guess we have a few more topics to cover, and we want to get to the election, but go ahead.
Just real quick with the garbage corrals again, right now, the house that I bought, the garbage corral is falling apart, it's in the sand. Is there an objection, because I know I can build one cheaper than $600, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Within the three-sided roll with the opening
You
facing
can
the
use any way
alley,
you want.
can I put it on the small patch of concrete that's next to my garage rather than back into the sand? Because that is just gonna begin to rot.
Yes, you can. So what you need to do is just send in an application to the AERC.
Okay,
There's
very good.
no charges. Yeah.
All right.
I'll talk to you about it after.
Bud, you want to talk about Clubhouse?
Yeah, so we're pretty far along about renovating the clubhouse, which I think needs it. Jen Gregg, Josh's wife, who helped design the front entrance way, which looks fantastic, has been doing great work here, volunteering her talent. So she's drawn up a couple of plans. Rachel and I, and keeping the board apprised, have reviewed a couple of the options. And we'll talk about this too. The Webbers, who currently are the tenants, provide the food service, they've also gotten, which will be discussed here in a few minutes, a beer and wine license, which the board has not approved, but that's another thing we're going to do with the clubhouse. But let me just briefly, the plans would include taking down the wall that separates and truncates that building, okay? We'd open it up, there would be a coffee area as you come in, and a food service area where it is now. So we would open that area up. They would then have the full building that they would rent. So we would renegotiate the rent. We are thinking about moving the Beachwalk access to the clubhouse one house over, and we're talking to Rob about the path that's one house over and coming in that way, okay? Bikes have been parked there, and the neighbors have been complaining, etc. But that's still under discussion. The problem here, we've gotten quotes. We're fine-tuning the plans. We're going back to fine-tune some of the quotes. We obviously have 2.5 to 3 months before the season opens, and we want to get this done. We've already had Race Construction come. Rachel has met with them, and Jen, Greg has met with them. So we're anxious to get this done. We budgeted for it, probably a little under budget, but we didn't know the numbers because the tenants had come to us initially to ask for some changes. We informed them, yeah, if we're going to pay for the changes, we're going to see some rent renegotiation. So that's all playing out as we speak. We're using our best efforts to try to get this done before the season, and I think you'll all be thrilled by the fact that when you walk in there. I'll jump to the next topic. So outside of the pool area, we are going to redo the deck that is strip it, stain it,
Excuse me, but we're having trouble hearing you because people are talking in the back.
Okay, so the other area is, we're gonna redo the pool deck, that is not replace it, but we're gonna, strip it, stain it, et cetera. New planters, new umbrellas. We're gonna move the volleyball court to the grass area off the deck. We're gonna take down the children's recreational equipment and buy new equipment and get quote for that. We're gonna look at the basketball court, fix that, and then we're gonna look at the tennis court and see if we can get a bid on that in terms of, what needs to be done there, because I know there's some cracks, but that has not been done yet. But that's the plan. We budgeted $20,000, which I think may be high for everything I just said about outside the pool area there. But that's all in the offing here and under plan.
First, that's great. All of what you just said has been a long time coming. I very much appreciate you doing it, particularly because that children's play area is more than just a problem with how it looks, but also where the kids get hurt. But I think, also, is there any discussion at all about what we're doing to address kind of the amenities? The pool is pretty crowded during the summer and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you have to address it now. I'm just asking if you guys have...
But no, the finance committee, Josh and company, have met with, and I have met with a pool contractor who did the pool, the original pool. To have a second pool, we need the property, okay? So there's some members, Doug, Adam, and others, Dave Tracy, who have that 7 acres, okay? They're gonna come to us with some development plans. They're willing to give us almost 2 acres, or whatever, just under, which would accommodate a new pool, a larger parking area, because obviously we'd lose the back parking area there, because they'd be suggesting and proposing to build houses back there. So we've undertaken getting a quote, but we need other plans to make this work.
And that discussion about the offers from Adam's group, that's in preliminary discussions, okay? We're not at liberty to share any of the details, because really, we don't have any details, but we're all very positive about it, is what we can say. That's just beginning. The discussions are just beginning.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Is there some way you can make it accessible from the pool to the snack shop?
Well, one of the things we're going to, well, it is accessible from the deck.
No, because you go down steps, is that why is that what you mean?
It's not handicap accessible.
Oh,
that's a good point.
Well,
Never thought about it.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that. Good point.
Talking to a couple of those vendors that have been in that snack shop, I know a big thing that they had hoped for that could possibly happen was that could be opened up right from the pool almost to a window where you didn't have to walk around. That was their suggestion why they did. I know it sounds trivial, but I think it would generate more traffic.
Well, let me say this. So I think we all view this as stage 1 for the clubhouse. Okay, so what's happening now is more interior. Okay. So there was discussion when we met as a board about redoing the screened-in porch and maybe expanding that, okay, which would be towards the pool.
Right.
Okay. So I really view that as stage 2.
Yeah. And we're hoping to work on that for next year.
That's feedback I got from some of the tenants that have had it in the past, that people could just walk up at the pool and like get a hot dog or whatever.
Yeah.
It would probably generate more business.
There was a time when no food was allowed in the pool area.
I'm sorry, say it again.
There was a time when no food was allowed in the pool area.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
While we're talking about all these improvements, there's a fair amount of street signs that don't have street names on them. There's a lot of signs, like in the waterfall park and things like that, that need to be replaced. Those are much simpler type things to do, and I think as we get more crowded, certainly putting names on streets is kind of critical, which brings up my My painting issue, again, I mean, if we're gonna be redoing that stuff, putting new street signs on, I think somebody needs to look back into that branding thing and figure out, since we did spend money on it, figure out what the
Who did
colors.
that, Jen or Jenny, who did the branding or who,
You know what,
who was
it's,
on the board
it's,
at the time?
it's a homeowner, and I'm sorry, but I don't remember that person's name.
I don't think that.
We never got that far.
We never, no, the logo was never finalized.
So I think we haven't really decided on the colors, but I think that's something that the AARC can tackle.
Yeah, and I think they ought to do it before we start, you
Sure,
know,
okay,
creating new
we'll
street
start
signs
looking
and all
at
that sort of stuff.
Just a point, we changed Childers to be a one-way, and I'm right near the intersection where it used to be the two-way, and all summer long, people were kept going the wrong way. Is it possible to put a bigger one-way sign, or do not enter, or something? Because
Yes.
it was bad, and I know it's new, and.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Guys, you know, we're learning every year. One of the good things about being on the board, we don't profess to know everything that's going on off the bat, right? So we appreciate your feedback, and certainly we learn as we go along. So the comments you're giving us today, they all make sense. So we'll take a look into that. Well, there's no reason why we can't do what you're suggesting.
You know, while you're talking about, I know the pool furniture is expensive, you said umbrellas. Did anybody kind of look at the layout of the pool as far as, because it is, you know, on popular weekends, it's crowded. I mean, as far as like some different furniture, like high top tables along that back wall, let's say towards the lake wall, you know, where maybe you've had high top tables and then lower tables in front of it where you can watch kids or, you know, it just seems like, I mean.
We have not, but again, that makes sense to
We're not really utilizing the whole area
Okay.
properly. So somebody's really got to kind of take a look at it and look at some furniture and say, okay, I'm not saying replace it all. I know that's a big expense. We don't want to do that. But maybe if we could, you know, tweak it a little bit and fit some more people in there comfortably, that would make sense.
Okay. Hey guys, I want to give the two candidates an opportunity to speak with us. At least give them 5 minutes.
Wine sale?
Oh, I'm sorry, wine sale. So one of the things that the vendor is asking us is, do we want to serve wine and beer in the clubhouse? So that we wanted to get a feel for people. I, for one, am totally against it for a variety of reasons. Okay, but we wanted to get a feel from everybody as far as just like a show of hands to say, what do you got? And of course, you got to give it some thought. There are all the things in my mind that can go wrong, but I'm speaking for myself. With beer and wine across an area where we have children, and again, my opinion, they have a license, so they're able to, you know. But what happens after that is all on us. It's all on the BPOA to manage. So it's just a quick. What do you guys think? Is anyone here either opposed or in favor of selling wine and beer?
Raise the best. Who's in favor of selling?
Show of hands up who's in favor of beer and wine.
Okay, so who's not in favor?
Wow. It's pretty tight. We'll discuss it some more then.
Just a quick question. You're talking about renegotiating with the vendor, is this part of the renegotiation? I mean,
No, it's not. It's just a separate one. It's just that they offered it to us because they have an available license.
But they're not able to sell it, right?
They're not able. Well, no.
But if we open up that door,
No, we have to approve it. We have to approve it. The board has to approve it. We have to approve it as a community.
Right, but so then that's an added value. You can get more in terms of the rent. When you
Personally, I'm not more concerned about if you get a few more $100 to me, it's not the big thing. We're not exactly poor, you know. But it's just other things that can occur.
But it builds up a defense if we need attorney fees or whatever.
What would our liability be?
Exactly. We have to look into that, right? We have to look into what our liabilities are. And we have to take, there's a lot of issues to discuss, but at least now we know that there's enough people in favor of it to put it on the table for discussion. Okay.
Are you going to discuss this now?
No, so we're running kind of out of time. We have a voting to do. We got 20 minutes left. So we
people from off-site right there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yes, for sure. I think the amount of trouble that it can cause, because everybody can drink in their own homes today, you know? And we've certainly had a lot of calls where people got a little bit rowdy with drinking. I just wouldn't want that in the public. Okay, so I'd like to give the candidates an opportunity to speak. At least 5 minutes to everybody.
So, as chair of the nominating committee, I guess it doesn't really matter. We have 2 qualified candidates, and I guess we'll just go on the basis of top and bottom on the ballot. So, Josh, Greg.
I'd love to speak first. I have 30 minutes to speak.
You have 5 minutes, Josh.
I got 5 minutes.
I don't know about the 8 pages.
Just quickly, those of you that saw the Word document, it's the time to read it, you know a lot of this, but I just kind of want to summarize it, kind of real quick for those of you that don't know me and my family. This is me and my family. I'm from Indiana originally, from Muncie, Indiana. We currently live in Laguna Beach, California, and we're relocating full-time to Beachwalk in about a month. So don't take that as a sign of my intelligence. Moving from the city. My wife's from the area originally. Our families are all here, so we're excited about the move. And we're excited about being at Beachwalk full-time. So 4 kids, 3 are pictured and 1's not. Hobbies are food, wine, traveling, boating, golf, and snow skiing. So probably a lot like everybody else. As you can see from my physique, the food and the wine are before the snow skiing. Tends to work that way. Just kind of quickly, I think the relevant skills for me from a board standpoint, or any committee at all, is really my interpersonal skills. I think are sharp, and something that I've really leveraged in my career. Ability to communicate, I think, clearly and effectively is very, very important. I'm very organized, which is something that I think is a tremendous skill set, something that I've constantly worked on. And I do have board experience, never on HOA, but lots of other boards, private companies, public companies, other organizations. So I think I can really bring a lot of value in that capacity as well. If you guys have any questions that I'll jump into. I think the priorities for the board, for the owner association in the coming term, is around transparency. I think that's very, very important to be transparent with the owners and the board and with each other. Investing responsibly. We talked a lot today about our financial position and how we're going to invest, and we need to be really responsible about how we invest our money, because I think, as somebody said earlier, it is our money, and we should absolutely think about how we're going to invest it responsibly. Controlling the growth. I do think growth is a good thing, so I am pro-growth. I think we have to control that growth and make sure we're not outstripping our ability to perform as a community from a sort of infrastructure standpoint. So I really am very, very passionate about that. And financial security is really, really important. We've seen the other side of that in the past. I think the side of this is, in any organization, having the ability to invest and being responsible with your money and having that security is really, really important. So I'm touching each of those quickly. We're running out of time. From a transparency standpoint, I think we have a clear vision as a board and an owners association, and we need to really make some very clear goals and objectives, communicate those with the community, get a lot of feedback in the community. More than just these board meetings, I think. More than just these meetings we have where you get 5 minutes to raise your hand and say a few things. Having everybody feeding information back and forth in a very clear and transparent way is really important. Communicating what we're doing as a community, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, I think is really, really important, so we can continue to get better. And I think that builds trust. I think to be effective as a board or an association, being able to trust each other is very important, and will go a long way towards, I think, the success from a community. The next one was responsible investment. I think we need to execute, which we have done a very good job on the capital plan. I think it needs to be reviewed kind of constantly. It shouldn't be something we do every 5 years and stick in a drawer. So we should be constantly reviewing, constantly looking at, constantly trying to understand better. Proactive maintenance in the community. A lot of that's come up today. Some of the things that have kind of slipped through the cracks. We're really proactively staying ahead of the curve as we're maintaining the community and all the amenities we have. Maintaining a budget surplus on an annualized basis is really, really important. So we can invest and we can continue to make what we have better. And then I think that will increase our home value. So that at the end of the day, we all care about the experience. We also care about investment. So it's important, I think, as homeowners to continue to control that. Next. The controlled growth piece, I think infrastructure. As the neighborhood's grown and as we have more and more renters and more owners, the infrastructure has to be there. There's got to be a place to safely do what you want to do as a family. When you come to Beachwalk, my wife sort of took a look at these and she said, one point to bring up was, when you pull into Beachwalk, you should feel like you're home. You should feel like it's safe, it's a place you want to be, invest a lot of money to be there. And that should continue as the neighborhood grows and as things continue to change in the dynamic. Security is a big piece. I think we talk a lot about the quantity of security, how many hours, which months. I think we need to look at the quality of security as well and make sure we have the right people in the right places to make sure we continue to be secure as a neighborhood. investing ahead of the curve is important. I think you have to be able to do that. In order to do that, you have to have money. But I think staying ahead of the curve is important as we grow, so we're not feeling the pain of the growth. We're actually investing ahead as a community and staying ahead of that curve. And I think at the end of that really is the neighborhood environment that we all desire. So we're all here for one reason or another, whether it's an investment or a place to go on the weekends or a place like us to call home. I think it's really, really important to be able to continue that and have that long term. I think last but not least, my wife told me this was a cold slide, so I apologize. It's financial security. And at the end of all of this, it's really important that we collect the money that's due to us, whether it's in fines or HOA fees or whatever that is. You have to have good accounts receivable. I think we have to manage our suppliers. I think RMC does a phenomenal job today. I think we need to continue to push that and understand who's working for us in the community, making sure that we're pushing those guys to do what they say they're going to do, and continue to grow that from an investment standpoint. Build the capital reserves when given an opportunity. It's good, so we can invest. We can do the things we all want to do to make the neighborhood better. And I think you can do all of that by having good governance. So we have to make sure that we, as a community, have the right people in the right seats, and we hold everybody accountable.
Okay.
That's it.
Well done.
Gordon?
Good morning, my name is Gordon Davidson. I'm at 109 Mary Lane. I make my home in Chicago, Illinois with my family. In Chicago, I work as an actuary and underwriter, pricing and assessing risk for insurance companies. Exciting stuff. Obviously, living downtown Chicago, I have great access to Beachwalk. My family and I utilize Beachwalk all the time. Last year, I think we came here 25 to 30 weekends. We're active in this community, and we love it. We love the area, we love the community, we love the community activities that Beachwalk hosts. Huge fans, very vested in the Beachwalk area. We want to see it succeed, want it to always be a fun place for all of us to visit. My platform is very simple, not nearly as long-winded as my opponent. My central theme is that I want the homeowners to have a voice and a say in any future development at Beachwalk. I think there's a bunch of intelligent homeowners in here, and I think your input would be valued and respected. So I want the power to play with you guys. I also would like to see some more social activities. I think that obviously the unity, the social activities, at least that I've experienced, has been tremendous, from the Dune Dash and Dip. Apologize for the shirtless pictures of myself. Zorn Brewery outings, etc. Music in the park. I'd love to see us expand our social calendar. Personally, I think some things that I bring, I consider myself a good listener, a problem solver, and a level-headed businessman. I think those traits, along with my professional experience, would complement the skill sets on board. I appreciate your consideration and good.
All right, so those that have not voted, there are ballots on each of the tables, I understand, for
At the back of your packet.
or back of the packet. Okay. Make your decision, register your vote, and then bring them up here to Janice.
But Janice is just saying, if you have multiple properties, you can just write the addresses of your properties on the form and then how many votes it is, rather than filling out several forms if you don't have them.
No, I think it's
Okay, that's great.